Well, thank you for joining us. My name's Luke. I'm the group head of AI at Intergage. So my role is to make sure that we make best use of AI across our group of B2B marketing companies. I also, as part of that, spend a lot of my time working with clients and organisations to deliver training for other organisations to help them do the same. So yesterday I was up with Winchester Council running a workshop for them for people in the Winchester area. I've also been running things for Dorset Chamber of Commerce, Test Valley and a number of other places. But very much my background is a bit geeky, as I said, so please do flag if I use any terms, but hopefully I can explain things in plain English. That's kind of my role and mission in life. Our aims for today are really just to showcase some of the AI tools that you can use, particularly in the sales and marketing area. We're not going to cover a general introduction to AI. If you need that, I can provide a link to a session we ran before with that, so please just let me know in the chat, or I can include it in the links when we send the slides around. I will send slides around at the end of today. So if there's any questions that come up and something's not in the slides, I'll make sure I add it to the end before I send them round. So if you do have any questions as we go through and it's not on the slides, I will make sure I put a link to that before I send it round. So please do feel free to chuck any questions into the chat as we go through. Yeah, let me know if there's anything that we miss. We're going to show a couple of examples, one of which is how to combine a couple of tools into a single use case. We're going to look at AI for sales calls, so some of the voice agent capabilities. We're also going to look at some good tools for using AI for product, market or competitor research. And then we're going to talk a bit about personas, making use of ChatGPT's advanced voice mode and how you can use that together with personas to create some really useful stuff. I hope that's what you signed up for, because that's what you're going to get. We'll hopefully finish in about half an hour or so to allow about 10 minutes for questions. That's usually the plan. So if there's anything else you think obviously you go through, but it's not directly relevant to the bit we're talking about, please do save it for the end. And I'm happy to answer all the questions we can as you go through there. So I'm just going to get straight into it. So one of the first things to talk about is actually a very slight tangent. One of my friends does a lot of improv, and they have a way of working in improv which is yes and it's a tool and approach which makes sure that they always build off each other. And it's something I like to use when I work and develop use cases for clients and internally. Is okay, we can use an AI to transcribe and record a call. You should have had the notification that we're doing that today. But yes, and what can we do with that afterwards? So I worked with our sales team to come up with a bit of process to help them for their sales prospecting calls, because we identified this as a process that could take 3 or so hours after the call, and to write up the call, to summarise, send a version to the client, summarise, keep a version internally, and also to do the first draft of a sales proposal. So what we did, and I'll take one of those as an example today, is we sat down and steps 1 and 2 we kind of did at the same time, I'll be honest, but it's quite hard to write that on a slide. So what we did is we created an example of a sales proposal document, as well as the 2 summaries, and then we identified what were the specific questions we needed to make sure we included in the call, and where would they go within that output document. So then the first kind of real step with the customer is have the call and transcribe it. In our case, we use Copilot if it's a Teams call. If it's a Zoom or other call, then we tend to use a package called Fireflies, which allows you to invite a AI bot to the meeting that will transcribe the call for you. And then we wrote a series of prompts that help us to convert that transcribed call into those 3 forms. So I'm going to step you through that in a little bit more detail now. If my next button would work. There we go. Let's do it with the mouse instead. So the first thing we did was we looked at what are the specific questions we need to include in this prospecting call. And these are obviously examples for us, but I would assume that yourselves or your teams will have similar. So what information did we need to know to qualify the call? What key facts do we need to know about the company? For example, the number of employees, perhaps their market size, perhaps target customers. Do we know their time frame? So what are they expecting of this program from us? Have we captured their key requirements? Do we know all of their pain points? And who is their current provider, and when are they due to renew? That's just some examples. That's not the exact list, but I'm just putting that up there for that. So those then formed up into a Word document, which is an example of a sales proposal. Within that, there are section headings. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use ChatGPT to match the questions that it will find within the transcript into the example document to create a new document, which is a first draft that we can then review and send on. If you already have a sales proposal document, obviously kind of steps 1 and 2 might be one thing, but we chose to start with the questions, then the document for one of those, but it might be that you do that the other way around. This isn't by any means a fixed method. I'm just trying to give you some examples of ways that we use it, AI here. So you can use an AI to transcribe and summarize calls. Does anyone actually throw in an emoji if anyone does that already? Does anyone use either Teams Copilot or Fireflies or Otter or any of those to do that? James does. Hi, James. Yeah. That's the hand up, not the. There we go. Yeah, so most of these tools will work in a similar way. So with Copilot, it's a button in the top of Teams that just starts transcription and recording. With Fireflies and Otter and some of those other ones, then it is a unique email address you get, and you invite that to your meetings, and then it will join as though it's an attendee and it will take notes. With all of these, they will generally record who said what as well as what they said. And what we've noticed over the last year is we would, let's say, an hour call. Previously, we would probably have 10 to 20 edits about a year or so ago. Last time we checked and did a sort of a benchmark around the team, it was down to sort of a handful of edits, so 3, 4, or 5 maybe. So these tools have got a lot more accurate as the capabilities of the AI behind the scenes has got better. And what they'll do is they'll give you a transcript, but also generally produce a summary. In the case of Copilot, that's actually running live doing the transcription while we're going now. So what you can do while the call is running is actually ask questions of the transcript. So if you're on a call and you have a member of your team who joins late, you can actually ask Copilot to give me a quick summary of the first 10 minutes for that person and pass that over so they can catch up. Or if you know someone mentioned the name of URL, for example, or a product name, which you didn't quite catch and you wanted to make a manual note of it, you could say, what was the product that so-and-so mentioned, and it will find that within the existing transcript while it's still recording. And that could be really useful if you're in quite a large call and there's quite a few things going on and you're perhaps more of an observer than actually taking an active part. So we use a combination of Fireflies and Copilot. One of the other reasons we like Fireflies is it is compliant to a standard called SOC 2, which is an American. Its compliance is one of the letters. Actually, I don't know what the SOC stands for. It's Society of something, and it's accountancy. It's a standard that's considered a bit of a gold standard for data security in America to do with financial and personal information. And it's an additional level of security you can switch on with Fireflies. One of our clients works with the MOD and they require that level of encryption on the call and the recording and the transcript. So that's why we use that sometimes as well. So if you need that kind of thing, then have a look at the different offerings from those tools. Those are some examples that work across a number of platforms. One other advantage of some of these is actually if you've got the app on your mobile phone, what you can do is you can actually record in-person meetings, and with some of them they're better than others, but if you introduce yourself during the recording, it will actually name the people within the call as it records the transcript, which is very handy. So you can, it's not just recording of video calls, it can also be some of them attached to mobile calls or perhaps in-person meetings. I mean, that in itself is a great use case. So going on to the prompt now. So here's an example. I've actually thinned the prompt down a little bit just for brevity and to make it fit onto the screen. So here's the first part of it. So I say to ChatGPT, I've provided 2 inputs. The first is an example sales proposal document that shows a desired format and structure for summarizing a sales call. Note on this, I do quite often use American English in my prompts deliberately because they are American tools, unfortunately. So you see a Z there. That's a deliberate typo, if you like. It bugs me immensely, but anyway. Number 2, a transcript of a call containing specific questions and responses. And then I say your task is to review the call transcript, extract the key information relevant to each section in the example sales summary, output a new sales proposal formatted exactly like the example document, including all the headings, subheadings, and any required detail. Then I put 3 hashes here. Best practice from OpenAI for using ChatGPT is to delimit the section between instructions, examples, and inputs and outputs and things like that. So, or if you have any exclusions as well. So I'll always put my prompt, then some hashes, and then say this is the input documents, and then sometimes important information or sometimes examples of what I want the output to look like. So in this case, I'll say the input documents are, and then I'll put the file names for both of those two documents in there. So I'll upload the transcript and I'll upload that example, and then I'll just repeat again, please produce a sales proposal in the same style, structure and tone as the example document. So we use that internally. We also have another prompt that we use for the summaries, part of which is automated. So you do get one summary provided just as part of the transcript anyway. And we reckon that saves about 2 to 3 hours per sales prospecting call. So the steps we still have to go through are have the call, then tidy up the transcript, usually only about 20 minutes, where previously my colleague said that can take them an hour to 2 hours to go back through the recording and make sure they've got all of the notes taken correctly. Then we'll run these scripts and then check through them. Whenever you're generating anything with AI, it's really important just to make sure you double check all of the output, particularly things like people's names, company names, product names, where they might have odd spellings. It's just generally the places where the only places now where it struggles. Quite often with well-known product names, it's got a lot better actually over the last year in getting those correct. But if you've got a customer in a particular niche and they're talking about a particular widget or feature or something, then generally those are the things to double check. But still, we're saving quite a lot of time with doing that. Yep, that's the first example straight out of the bag for you. If you've got any questions on that, please do fire them into the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to carry on with the next example. Great. So has anyone used any of the deep research tools that have recently become available? So either Perplexity Deep Search, Google Deep Research, or ChatGPT Deep Research? Oh, okay, great. So these make use of the very latest models to do multi-step research. And what I mean by that is up until the last couple of months, if you wanted ChatGPT to do something complicated, you had to work with it and go back and forth on all of the steps it needed to do to complete that. And the next sort of evolution of AI is what a lot of people refer to as AI agents. And this is where they can do a project for you instead of a task. So rather than saying, do this one specific thing, and that might be, the first step is, here's my overall goal. I want to break it down into steps, work out what those steps are, and then go back and forth with you to do all of those steps. You can just give it a whole project and get it to set off and do that. It can take 5 to 30 minutes to run. So I ran quite a complex query yesterday, just before the break, my session in Winchester, and it took 12 minutes to run. While it was doing that, it goes back and forth, and I'll show you an example of that in a second. It's the ChatGPT model, which is based on, is called O3, and it's the first one that exceeds a benchmark called the GPQA. So it's the General Quality Assurance, something or other. I forget the exact name of it, sorry. And it is the first benchmark where a AI chatbot has achieved above PhD level of intelligence. So that's to say that a PhD level student in their specific domain, so if it's a physics question, a physics PhD student with access to Google, this is the first model that scores above the average student on that benchmark. And these are novel, unique questions, not one it gets from training data. So really quite significant, the level of intelligence these models have. And it will produce a research paper that is up to almost that standard. And there have actually already been cases where people have co-written a paper using AI in this method, and it's taken them a significantly smaller amount of time to do so. I myself recently published a newsletter. So one question I get sometimes when I'm running workshops is around the resource use of AI. So there's a commonly misquoted stat that says it's 500 milliliters of water used for every query. I wanted to do some deep research into that, so I wrote quite a detailed prompt to say, look, I'd like to research this, understand where it comes from, also understand how this compares to other household tasks, and find the sources of it to see whether it's true or not, and how that works out. And spoiler alert, it's not even vaguely true. It's about 30 to 50 prompts would be that level of water. Yeah, I could not have done that previous to this model and this tool. But this also raises a question for us as business owners. If people are no longer using Google or perhaps a junior member team to do research to find a product, but they're using an AI agent to go off and research and read things off lots of different websites, is all of that content that it might need visible to an AI agent? If you've got, for example, pricing behind a form that you need to fill in to get a salesperson to call you back, actually, if you can do these complex searches, if let's say we're looking for a bit of software and I want it to work for 30 people, and I want to know pricing, I want to know if it has these features. If that stuff is hidden with PDFs, it might not be as easily readable by these kind of models. If it's hidden behind a form, it's not going to be readable. Or if there are other things blocking it, then there's a concern there. So I show you this both from how you can use it, but also there's something to consider as these tools grow in use. We'll certainly we'll find that some people lose out because their websites are not ready for that change that's coming. So let's show you an example. So I was also doing some work understanding some of the AI offerings from a tool called HubSpot. And so you can see the prompt on the right-hand side, or the start of it. And then on the left-hand side, you can see the ChatGPT window, and the deep research button you can see highlighted in blue there. I hope that's big enough for everyone. Sorry, it's quite hard I wanted to get both bits onto one screen. I hope you can read that okay. Let me know if you can't, I can paste it into the chat or something. So you'll see an additional button in ChatGPT which says deep research. You get one that says deep research in Google Gemini. You also get one that says deep search in a tool called Perplexity, which is quite well known for doing AI research. If you have the free version, you get 2 searches a month. If you have the $20 a month version, which is about £18–19, you get 10 searches a month. And if you pay for the pro version, which is $200, you get 120, I think it is currently. On Perplexity, you get either 5 or 30, depending on the platforms, and I'm not sure for the Google tool. And you can see again on the right-hand side there, I've written the question, this is what I want to get, and then I've shown an example of one of the features. So what I'm going to show you now is just a little screen recording of it running of it in action, and you can see the kind of back and forth it does. So what you'll see as this runs is that it is working its way through the sources. Every time it finds a source, it reads that, understands the context of it related to the query, and then it will, using its own logic, work out what it needs to do next, and then it will do other things and look up other things. And what you'll sometimes see when you watch these run is, oh, I know I need this information from this website, but it's not available to me. So I'm looking for alternate sources, for example. So you can see here, for example, it says I'm piecing together features across marketing, sales, service, and content hubs. It's reading a lot of articles from the content hub. And as it continues to run, you might notice on the left-hand side where it says evaluating AI features, it's up to 6 sources. And as it runs, it kind of adds more to that. So you see 7, it's just added another one. And there it goes. So you can see it's doing its logic. So I'm listing features and thinking through characteristics, aiming for a total of around 600. And as it continues to run, it will just pull in more and more features. This search took about 7 minutes. Obviously, I'm not going to show you a 7-minute video of that. That would be largely redundant, but hopefully you can see the difference with this between either a normal web search or a normal query, how this is much more involved. It will go back and forth and ask questions. It can also come back to you sometimes and say, I found these 2 potential ways I can research it, or areas, for example, which one do you want me to do? It might ask some qualifying questions. You can see now it's up to 31 sources, I think it is. And it starts, you can see these just ticking up as it goes through. What do we get at the end of it? So you get a fully cited output reference paper. So this one was about 9 or 10 pages. Every single bullet point on it, you can see I've highlighted the first one there in yellow. Sorry, the small highlight in yellow is linked to a citation on the right-hand side. And you can see all of those citations at any point. At the top, you'll notice I highlighted where it says research completed in 7 minutes, 26 sources. If you reopen a chat, this side panel with citations doesn't open by default. So what you need to do is find that research completed in 7 minutes, click on that, and it will list all the sources on the right-hand side for you. But they are also there within the document that it creates. What I did in this case is, because it was more detailed than I needed, is I then just wrote a quick prompt just saying, this is great. Can you summarize each of these areas into 5 bullet points with no more than 6 words in each one? Because I wanted to then take that and put that into a slide deck. And that probably, that's 7 minutes, and then about 5 minutes going back and forth with those slides produced me a about 15 slide deck that I think normally would have taken me a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours to put together. I sent it to the HubSpot expert in our team to verify. He didn't find any issues with any of the citations or features noted. I've done about 6 or 7 of these now since the feature was available, and I've checked about 60 or 70 sources. I've not found a single citation or source incorrect data so far, but I would still encourage you to make sure you have that check in place if you are doing something like that. So that's a great tool. You could equally have used that for competitor research or for product research. I used it here for features research on software, but that's a great tool. And like I said, there's Perplexity and Google Gemini have similar versions that are available. So when you've got a big chunk of data, there's a great tool called Notebook LM. Has anyone come across that? Love a quick emoji if you have. No, so this is a really great tool for helping you to look at large bits of information and extract things from them. It allows you to put multiple documents into what they call a notebook. And one of the really neat features is you can just click a couple of buttons and create a podcast of the information you put in there. So one of the ways I used this recently is there was a large report, as I mentioned about the newsletter a minute ago, there was a large report on AI and resource use. It was a few hundred pages long, and I needed to quite quickly find the relevant sections in it, but also I wanted to get a general feel for the paper. So once I'd loaded it in and it had processed it, I've then got a little chat window and I can ask it any questions about that document or the set of documents that I put in there. And if you're a Google Workspace user, you can share those notebooks within your company. Some use cases for it. So one thing that we do here is we, when we're onboarding a new member of the team to an existing client, we have a lot of their documentation stored in a notebook. So that might be their tone of voice, their about us section. It might be transcriptions of their onboarding calls. And what the team members can do is say, give me a podcast about this client. They can then have a 10-minute talk thing they can listen to, or they can ask it questions. Okay, tell me what their key product ranges are. And so they can interrogate this notebook to learn about the client, and then they'll check with the existing account manager. You can use it to produce a podcast on a white paper. So there's some business coaches locally who I worked with a session in New Forest Hotel recently. And one of the things they did is they took their book, which is about 40,000 words, they put it into Notebook LM, and then they produced a podcast that is available on their website as a marketing tool to promote their book. It's about 10 minutes long, the podcast, for anyone that wanted to listen to it. They made that available. I think they edited out a few highlights, actually. And it also has a feature where you can join the podcast and ask the hosts questions about the content that you've uploaded into the notebook. So this is what it looks like when you put some stuff in. So you can see on the left-hand side, you've got the sources there. You can see the start of the title, so towards sustainable, is ticked. In the middle there, it creates a summary and then offers you some quick options. So create an FAQ, create a study guide, create a table of contents. And this can be really great if you've got a new product line. So we had a company who was taking on a new product line, and they had some quite deep user manuals and FAQs. They wanted to process into some quick web page FAQs. So what they did is they chucked into Notebook LM, clicked this, edited it, put it onto their web page, saved them up, I nearly swore then, a shed load of time. And that was something we found very useful for them for a large number of products. In the top right-hand corner, what you can see is a generate podcast button. And you can see at the bottom there with the other arrow, you can type in and ask any questions. And you can also choose whether you want it to just work from this document or also look things up on the web to supplement that. So I'll just show you a quick video of the podcast. And you'll notice in the top right-hand corner here, you can also download it. So if you wanted to include that as an MP3 somewhere, or maybe you wanted to edit it afterwards. So, I mean, you know, it's a couple of things there. Yes, at the moment it's only American voices. Sorry, sorry, Brits. They don't have any other accents at the moment. Another thing that I really like there is it offers suggested questions below, and what you can do is you can integrate that. That's been updated since I took this screenshot, which was only a couple of months ago. You can now put suggested questions to the podcast open and regenerate it. You'll notice for this document, which was a good couple of hundred pages, it generated a 30-minute podcast. Now, if I'm driving between workshops, I can probably listen to a 30-minute podcast. I don't have time to read 200 pages of a document. It is also worth, though, again, just to reinforce, checking the summary of that. So yeah, that's some ways that we use Notebook LM, and I think it's really helpful, particularly for sales and marketing folks, in being able to repurpose content to FAQs, to a podcast, to whatever it might be. So that's a great one to share with you. If you've got any questions on that, please do chuck them in the chat. So the next one, always dangerous. I'm going to try and do a live demo. So fingers crossed. I need a willing volunteer. So would anyone like to share with me just a quick summary of their business? And what I'd like to do is create a persona by speaking to ChatGPT, and then I'm going to interact with that persona. So if anyone's comfortable for me to do that, can you shout no? Otherwise, don't make me pick on someone, or I'll just make up something. Susie, you're grinning. Do you want to go? You're on mute, but if you want to chuck something in or unmute to tell me, that's great. Oh, I don't know if I have to unmute you. Sorry.
Bear with me.
There you go.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
You can use me. I might not be the most interesting person, but yes. So I'm a copywriter, content writer, self-employed. Okay. What else do you want to know?
So what's your do you have a particular target market?
I've done quite a lot within sort of well-being, done some within hospitality, quite a broad spectrum, to be honest, because I've done it for 26 years. So yeah, I probably ought to be more targeted. But at the moment,
I think that's a good start. That would be enough, thank you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, so this is just ChatGPT on my phone, and in the bottom right hand corner you get the little black speak option, and when I do this normally the sound is okay, but obviously just shout if it's not, because I am doing mobile phone to laptop. So I'm just going to press that. Hi ChatGPT, what I'd like to do is create a persona with you. Can you help me with that?
Absolutely, I'd love to help. What kind of persona are you aiming to create?
So I'm a copywriter who specialises in the wellbeing, health and hospitality sectors. I'd like you to help me create a persona for that, please, and identify some potential target customers.
Great. Let's craft a persona for you. As a copywriter in these sectors, your persona might emphasise empathy, attention to detail, and a strong understanding of client needs. For target customers, you could focus on wellness retreats, health and fitness brands, boutique hotels and spas, organic food and beverage companies. Does this sound like what you're aiming for?
Yes, please. So can we expand on those and create a slightly more detailed persona, please?
Absolutely. Here's a more detailed persona. Name, Sarah Thompson. Sarah is a seasoned copywriter with over 10 years of experience. She has a strong passion.
Hey ChatGPT, I am the copywriter. I'd like you to create a persona for the target customers we identified a second ago.
Got it. Let's create a persona for your target customers. Name, Emily Green. Demographics, 35 years old, lives in a suburban area, married with 2 children. Occupation, owner of a boutique hotel and spa. She's also involved in wellness retreats and collaborates with organic food suppliers. Goals, to provide a holistic and luxurious experience for her clients, ensuring top-notch well-being and health services. Challenges, standing out in a competitive market, maintaining high standards and consistently attracting health-conscious clients. Values, sustainability, quality, and a personal touch in all services. Does this align with your vision?
How does that sound, Susie?
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, she got one out of 3 of those points correct. So I have got
1
2
out of 3.
children,
Which was incorrect?
I'm not 35.
Oh no, sorry, that wasn't meant to be you. That was meant to be your target clients.
Oh, I see. Sorry. Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, it's kind of useful. It's kind of useful. Yeah.
So I'm going back to my yes and. What would you like to ask that target potential customer about a new potential service or offering you've got? Because that's where it gets really clever. Is now that we've created that persona, I can ask questions of, Emily
Okay.
Green and see how she might respond to an offering.
Okay. I suppose you could just ask what are their content needs?
Okay, let's try that. Hi, ChatGPT. Act as though you are the Emily we just created. Tell me, what are your content needs?
Emily, I need content that resonates with my clientele's desire for a holistic and luxurious experience. This includes blog posts about the benefits of wellness retreats and spa treatments, engaging social media content that highlights customer experiences, newsletters featuring special offers and wellness tips, website copy that reflects the values of...
I think we get the idea there. And apart from that brief where it tried to create a version of you,
no, that's
I
good.
think you kind of get the idea there. And you know, we didn't spend long creating that persona and refining it and talking about the potential target customers, but very quickly you can see there how powerful the advanced voice mode on ChatGPT is now. You have access to that on the free account, but it gives you a limited number of minutes.
Okay, so on the I just downloaded the app while we were talking. So where would I go? Because I only normally use it on the desktop. Where would I normally go from here?
So
to...
in the very bottom right hand corner, you see the black sort of speaker icon. That's it.
Yeah.
Just press that to get started.
Okay, brilliant.
And what you'll notice, the difference is you get a certain, in fact, let me go back into it. You get this blue circle when you're talking to the ChatGPT advanced mode.
Okay.
That's the difference rather than the wavy lines. Can everyone see that? Okay, sorry, it's always hard to get a screen on screen.
Yeah, I'm just having a look. But well, I suppose I need to speak into it to get that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's another great example of ways that we use it. And you know, we've often done that with clients, sat there and just chatting to it during a meeting. And I take that as mostly a successful demo. Obviously, we've very briefly shown you the capability there. What's really powerful though is, I know a lot of people use marketing personas. They talk about, oh, you know, would this message resonate with them? You can ask the persona because ChatGPT will act as that person. We'll think about all of those characteristics that you gave it, and we'll answer questions on their behalf. And yeah, obviously, do your own research and make sure you cross-check those things. But it's a really powerful way to use advanced voice mode, and that took us what, 2-3 minutes? And you know, people are always saying, I wish personas could come to life or I could understand them. If you've got someone joining a campaign, you can just say, you know, here's the chat where we created Emily, go and have a chat with her. You know, understand her in a bit more detail. If you want to know what magazines she might read, what content sources she might look at, you can ask those questions to ChatGPT and it'll do that work for you. So thanks very much, Susie, for being a guinea pig there. Much appreciated. So we're all getting towards the end now, and I want to allow some time for questions, but we've got one other quick one to show you. It's just around customer service and voice calling. So as you know, you can add an AI chatbot to your website, and the voice agents are getting very good. So you saw there that was almost real-time conversational. But you can also do more things than that. So you can do things like qualifying old or warm leads using something like WhatsApp or via the phone call. And an example we created here was for a training session we were running. We created a form, you put in your name and mobile number, and an AI voice clone of my boss would call you back, and you can ask him any questions about the seminar that we were running. Now, we did it just as a proof of concept, and we used a tool called Plinks. And the way we did that is, so this isn't, just to be really clear, this isn't press 1 to hear this, press 2 to do that, or say this to get this information. You talk to it in the same way we would have a conversation. So, you know, when it answers, it'll say, hi, I'm Paul, you know, here's what you can ask me about. And then you could say, actually, I'd like to know if this venue is accessible for me because I use a wheelchair. And then what we've done is we've created a bank of answers, and it will identify which of those it wants to go to, but it also will have some flow. So it will try and understand how it can help you and either send you details to the seminar, or perhaps what you actually need is a recording of a previous one because you're not quite at that level yet, and it will send you a link to that instead. So there's a couple of different outcomes. The tool is called Plinks, P-L-I-N-X, that we use, but there are a number of them out there. And to give you an idea of how it sounds, so this was an answer to a section around what the seminar will cover. If any of you know Paul Tansey, I'm sure some of you might do, because usually when I do a seminar, it's about 50% of people seem to have met him at some point. This is him, the voice agent of him speaking this section. So that is text to speech and a deep fake, if you like, of my boss, Paul Tansey. We actually got, no, actually, I'm not going to say we because it was him. It was absolutely his doing. He got his wife to try ringing it and see what she thought of the voice clone. And she said, if she hadn't been stood next to him, she would have been fairly convinced that it was him until it got stuck in a loop on one of the questions when we were first trialing it. I think you'd be quite hard pressed to realise that's not a real person, and it's fully interactive. And so these tools are becoming available, and they offer great opportunities. Obviously, an AI pool can be available 24/7. Rather than an answering machine, we're looking at integrating one into our phone system. So that if someone can't answer the phone immediately, we've got an AI agent that will say, hey, sorry, no one can answer it. I'm an AI agent. Are there things I can help you with? And if it's one of the things it can then give them the answer. Otherwise, it can pass it over to voicemail, or it can say, I'll get my colleague to call you back. And then it will send an email to us with the name and phone number of the person that called. So we just about got 5 minutes left for questions and answers. That's been, there's not a lot, it's quite hard to fit stuff into that kind of time frame, but hopefully that's given you some ideas of some of the ways that you can use AI today. I'm a big believer in showing and telling things that are actual practical things you can all go away and do right now. I know there's quite a lot of people who like to sort of talk about future things and shiny things that just don't quite exist yet. That's not me. If you've got any questions, please do chuck them into the chat. Happy to hold on for as long as we've got to do those. If you'd like to, I also have an AI newsletter I publish about every other week, and this provides practical, actual things you can do with AI. The last one was actually about the resource usage, so not so many actual practical things because it was a practical question that I get asked quite a lot. But yeah, I'm going to be here for another 5 minutes if anyone has any questions. I hope that was useful to you. Appreciate your time today. Thank you very much. Feel free to unmute if you want to ask or chuck it into the chat. Whatever works for you, please go ahead. Clap emojis are great. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you all. If you'd like any more info on any of this or would like any more detailed workshops or training, please do drop me or one of my colleagues a line and we can certainly help you out with that. Like I say, we run a number of workshops around the area as well as bespoke ones to individual businesses.